Part 2 practice. We're going to do 1, 2, and 4. The first problem here is a trinomial. It has 3 terms. So we're going to factor by splitting the middle. All right, I have multiplying here. 1 is negative 45. Need two numbers that multiply to negative 45 and add to negative 4, which would be negative 9 and 5. Now before we move on, I should notice that there's degree 4, so I'll have 4 solutions. When I split the middle here, I have x to the 4th minus 9x squared plus 5x squared minus 45. Now I'm making sure to put an x squared on my middle terms because there's a squared on the middle term in the original expression. When I group here, I pull out my GCF, x squared times x squared minus 9. The GCF of the second term is 5. And then I get my factored form, x squared plus 5 and x squared minus 9. Now for both of those, since they're x squares and a number, I can go ahead and set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 5, get x squared equals negative 5. Now be careful, when I square a root, I have to write plus or minus in front of my answer, and negative is going to have an I. Radical 5 does not break down, so those are two of your roots. I radical 5 and negative I radical 5. The other guy, x squared minus 9, set it equal to 0. Add 9 to both sides, and take the square root. And the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. So those are all 4 of your solutions. 3, negative 3, I radical 5, and negative I radical 5. All right, number 2, we have 4 terms. Degree is 4, so I'm going to have 4 solutions again. 4 terms means I can group. The GCF of the first group is x cubed times x plus 2, and the GCF of the next group is negative 1 times x plus 2. Now when I rewrite this, I'm going to have x cubed minus 1 times x plus 2. Now, when I factor this, I have to notice that this left factor keeps factoring. It's the SOAP difference of cubes here. So that's going to factor into 2 sets of parentheses, one with 2 terms and one with 3. This x plus 2 just comes back down and stays put. We'll deal with it later. All right, to fill in the first blank, you take the cubed root of x cubed, which is x. To fill in the second blank, you take the cubed root of 1, which is 1. For the trinomial, the first blank there, I square the x. And the last blank, I square the 1. The middle blank, I multiply them together. 1 times x is 1x. Now the signs here, fill them in by starting with my negatives. So, same, minus, opposite, always positive. I have 3 factors now. From there, I need to get 4 solutions. 2 of them are easy. I take the binomial here, x minus 1, set it equal to 0, and get a root at positive 1. That's one of the 4. The other one is from this factor on the end. That's super easy as well. Negative 2. There, I have 2 answers already. The last 2 are going to come from the middle. And I'm going to use quadratic formula here to solve the inside. Remember, that's never going to factor. For the quadratic formula, I took the opposite of b, which is 1, so negative 1, plus or minus. Now I take my b squared, 1 minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times 1. Now, 1 squared is 1, minus 4 is negative 3 over 2. And all I have to do is simplify the radical. I don't like the negative underneath, so I pull out an I in front. And that'll be your answer. Those are the other 2. Negative 1 plus or minus I radical 3 over 2. And I have all 4. Those are the roots in my boxes. All right, last problem. Number 4. This one has a degree of 5, which means you're going to have 5 total solutions. Start by factoring. Look for a GCF here. There is one. All these terms have an x, and they're all even, so I can pull out a 2x. When I pull out a 2x, I'm left with x to the 4th minus 6x squared plus a trinomial. I can factor this, split the middle. Two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to -6, well that's -4 and -2. My GCF stays in front, and I'm going to split the middle into being x to the 4th minus 4x squared minus 2x squared plus 8. All right, now my grouping. My GCF there is an x. Oh, I forgot my squares. Oh my goodness. I said it and I didn't write it. Pull out an x squared and I'll have x squared minus 4. I can pull out a 2 of the second group, x squared minus 4. So your factored form has a 2x in front, x squared minus 2, x squared minus 4. And I can now go ahead and set each of those factors equal to 0. 2x equals 0, x squared minus 2 equals 0, x squared minus 4 equals 0. First one, I divide by 2 and get a root at 0. That's 1. I add 2, x squared equals 2, and square root. That gives me plus or minus radical 2, which is 2 more roots for a total of 3. And my last guy here, when I add 4, I take the square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2, which is 2 more roots for a total of 5 that we want. 3 real, or all real, 2 irrational. All right, that's it. You have a practice and a review left, and then you'll be done with the class, except for your final.